me on this edition of Down to Earth. It's post election, and today is the ninth day of November. We're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving, and from what I understand, that traditional Black Friday will not be happening this year. In fact, most retailers have spread out their Black Friday savings and sales over a 3 week period because engaging in mass activity is largely discouraged due to the presence of the coronavirus, which is the subject that we're going to talk about today because the elections were about the coronavirus, and now that the elections are over, it is still about the coronavirus because the cases are spiking. Here in Michigan, for instance, we've had over 6,000 cases on a repeated basis. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen cases higher than they were the first time around. So I'm afraid that the people who had said the second round would be worse are kind of proving to be correct if we didn't try to stem it and stymie it from the first and stamp it out from the first time. It looks like we're paying for that. So for all the Trumpers and trumpets and Trumpists who felt like it was your right to go out in public, to go have your drink down at the county bar and down at the town bar and the town pub, and it was your right to walk around without a mask on, good luck. You're all facing imminent disaster because the coronavirus is going to be here for a while, and it's going to be here to stay. And I don't know about you. I'm not in any rush to take a vaccine because I don't know the veracity of the vaccine. I haven't seen the clinical trials. I don't know, vaccines take years to develop because they have to be tested over and over and over again. You can't just come up with a vaccine and in a one test it proves good and then you land it on the public. That's not how vaccines work. So I am not taking it because I don't know what the potential outlying results and cumulative responses will be later on. There are not enough test trials, in other words, is what I'm saying. So I'm not taking a vaccine. And I don't know about you, but that's me, right? So coronavirus is real. It takes a while to foment in your system. By the time you have displayed symptoms, you already have it. So that means you have already transmitted it to the people around you and you have already given it to others. It is not fair that I, who take time to protect myself, I wear a mask, I sanitize my areas, I make sure that I don't go out without a mask, and I take time with it, that you think you should live because you think you are superhuman. Then you need to keep your superhumanness to yourself inside of your four square walls. But don't come out in the public with that. So this morning we're going to talk about the coronavirus task force that President-elect Biden has appointed in transition, and talk about how the transition to power is being blocked by a civil servant appointed by Trump naturally. This is how he has done things. He got rid of everybody and placed people in power. So he thinks they can stop the transition. But from what I read yesterday on the New York Times, the the Biden administration had anticipated that, so they had raised enough money. Typically, the GSA, the Government Services Administration, which oversees the transition, provides the incoming candidate with $9 million to facilitate the transition. The government has already allotted space in Washington for the incoming candidate to have office space. It's in the Commerce building, the Department of Commerce's building. So they already have office space. And so they will be there to do that. But in terms of actual funding to plan the various activities, to vet cabinets and to vet people of the cabinets, that's what the General Services Administration is supposed to do. And Trump is blocking that. The interesting thing is when he was transitioning in 2016, nobody blocked him. Nobody really liked him, but we accepted it, that that was the will of the people, right? Because we understood that the people had voted. They voted for a candidate whom they liked, and we respected it. We accepted it. We didn't like it, but we accepted it. Now he's throwing a fit paper tantrum because he does not get what he wants. It's time for the GOP to move on. It's time. You're doing nothing but damaging yourself because, frankly, you're not going to recover. The GOP is not going to recover from this. The fact that you had largely a dictator and you had someone as vile as Stephen Miller, who continued to repress people through immigration policies, that's not going to go away and no one is going to forget that. So in the next round of elections in 2022, the GOP is going to be wiped out in cities and towns across America. You're not going to have Republican legislatures in states across America for you to enact your gerrymandering and wicked policies on people of color. The systemic racism that has been brought about due to gerrymandering, where you fix districts and realign districts to resemble you who are white and to make sure that only white people's interests matter in those districts, that era is over. That is one form of systemic racism that is going to be eradicated in the next round of elections. Come 2022, you're not going to have that. The GOP needs to realize and reconstruct under the mantle that they are no longer racist. And they're not going to do that because they're still controlled by racist elements throughout their party from top to bottom. And as long as you continue to reinforce that message that America is white and will be whiter, you can forget about it because the world has changed around you. In case I know you missed the boat, I know you're not subtle at reading the room. And not only has the world changed, but the people in America have changed. You talk about the suburbs a lot. When was the last time you actually drove through a suburb anywhere in the United States? Tell me, when was the last time? Have you looked at the people who live in those homes? Most people who live in America's suburbs now don't socialize like they used to. They don't have barbecues and so on because they don't feel welcomed. They're very reluctant to come out. But if you were really to look at the people who drive into their garages and get someone to do their lawn, and maybe you see them when they come out to cut their lawn or have someone do their lawn, most people in America's suburbs today are brown. There are white people, but there are brown people too. There are brown and black people in America's suburbs. So when you look at how the face of that has changed and how that has impacted local politics, people want representation that represents them, not representation that represents the white man's interest, the white woman's interests all the time. We're all a little fed up. We're beyond being fed up. And since you don't respect us, nor respect our voices and our calls to action, then people are going to start voting and voting en bloc. So the Republican Party can forget about 2022. And if you think you're going to bring a candidate in 2024 that is a little similar to Trump, but a little milder, it won't be so in your face, forget that too. We're going to make sure that that does not happen because we have to remove systemic racism. And this is a call to action for all of us. We all need to remember that the work is not done. It's not going to take one election cycle. It's going to take 2020, 2022, 2024, 2026, 2028, 2030, 2032, 2034. It's going to take several election cycles to uproot systemic racism. We're going to have to be retaliatory at it. We're going to see them strike up. We're going to have to go and vote because that is the only way to remove this evil of white supremacy from the country that has repressed and oppressed large groups of the population. And if you don't believe that this is true, let me read you some facts about the coronavirus. Now, the coronavirus has devastated approximately, it's now closer to almost 240,000 people who have died from the coronavirus. America is 1/5 of the world population. America now has 1/5 of the world cases of coronavirus. That is a shame and a stain on our national face. We should be ashamed of that. That's a stain on our record that perhaps will not be removed. Never. The US reported its 10 millionth coronavirus case on Sunday, with the latest million added in just 10 days. You see how it's ramping up? In 10 days, we had 1 million cases, as most of the country struggled to contain the outbreaks in the third and most widespread wave of infection since the pandemic began. This is the third wave, because we had a wave in the summer that was unprecedented. Case reports have soared in the last week, shattering records. The US alone accounts for about 1/5 of all reported coronavirus cases in the world. Thankfully, President-elect Joe Biden has already named medical and scientific experts to a much-needed coronavirus task force. I read just this morning that Pence is holding a coronavirus task force meeting. He hasn't held one in more than a month. It's a little late. They're voted out, so I don't know what they're trying to do. And all these frivolous lawsuits that are taking place across the country alleging that dead people voted is not true. Let me explain. When someone dies, their passports and their social security numbers are deactivated, right? Okay. So the funeral home, the hospital, if they died in a hospital, it's reported through the birth to the registrar of births and deaths in every city, right? Secondly, the funeral homes confiscate the person's passport if they had one. They also report to the registrar of birth and death that this person has died. Then the Department of State, through the Social Security Administration, deactivates the person's social security number. What happens next? So the records are updated in the state, in the county, and in the city. Okay, so when a ballot is mailed out, if the person died while the ballot was mailed out, by the time the ballot returns to be counted, the barcode on the ballot has the person's detailed information on it. When they scan it, it's going to say this person is deceased, that ballot is shredded. First of all, the ballot is not going to be mailed back because the person died. So who's going to fill out a dead person's ballot? A Republican who wants to steal an election, right? And just now, I just read that DeJoy, who was appointed Postmaster General, when was the last time in America we ever even knew the name of a Postmaster General? He's going to go to jail for election fraud because he withheld and did not deliver 450,000 ballots. So the Republicans were actively suppressing the vote. And that is a conversation that needs to not ever go away. That the Republicans, in an effort to control the outcome of the election, suppressed the vote. They engineered it and they worked actively at it by not delivering the ballots. Both Donald Trump and DeJoy and everyone involved in that planning need to pay for that. We don't do stuff like that in America. At least we never used to. But now you come along and you realize that you're not going to win. So you think you can braggadociously come out in the public and hold rallies and pay people to show up at the rallies to make it seem as if you enjoy the popular support of the people. No, those are people who are paid. And because of those rallies, we're seeing spikes in coronavirus. And the thing about it is they don't respect anybody's opinion. They don't even respect the opinion of scientific experts. They don't respect the opinion of experts in population control. They don't respect anybody. They're definitely not going to respect me. And they definitely don't respect you and your vote. So expect that our conversation, the only thing we can do, start a hashtag on Twitter that says it's transition time. It's time to transition. Follow that hashtag, just like we started one last week that said count every vote and count all the votes. Eventually it got to them and they had to shut down the foolishness they were talking about. It's just absolutely unbelievably ridiculous. And I'm not saying that with any fear of reprisal or any fear of anything. I think the time has come for every citizen to speak up. If you all need to take a microphone and go do a Facebook Live, go do a Twitter Live, let your voices be heard that it is time to transition. It's time to transition. Shut down the ridiculousness. And then make sure come 2022, your vote counts. You have to vote in city and county elections because we got to get rid of the Republican mandate that exists in legislatures that has caused this debacle to happen. We got to get rid of the Republican gridlock on the Senate. We've got to be able to control the Senate. If we don't control the Senate, we're going to be in gridlock because that's all the Republicans do. They're the most obstructionist form of rule there is. They are obstructionists as a group. If they can't get their win by the will of the people, then they obstruct. That is their game plan. And everybody in politics should know this by now. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to tell Mr. Biden right now and Senator Harris, Vice President-elect Harris, there is no Mr. Nice Guy. Do not play nice with these people. Do unto them as they have done unto you. They have blocked and obstructed every sort of policy that has ever been done. It's time to, don't be nice with them. Don't play nice because they do not play nice with us. And they have robbed our children of our future. They have robbed us of our peace and safety for 4 long years. This was an effing nightmare, a freaking nightmare that I could not wake up out of. When the year began in this year, I prayed every day for Donald Trump to leave office. Every day. I even have it written on my calendar and I didn't even have the coronavirus yet. We didn't even have it yet. The coronavirus did not exist. All I had was the fact that the country was headed in a direction that I didn't think was fruitful and helpful to the rest of us. The country presented itself as a clear and present danger. And the people who were running it manufactured that. So now I am saying there's no more Mr. Nice Guy. Do unto them as they have done unto us. Vote them out. Come 2022, vote them out. Make sure we have a runoff election in Georgia. Make sure that those candidates go out and vote. Again, go vote in mass numbers in Fulton County, Georgia, and in every part of Georgia. Vote them out. Even if we don't get Georgia for the presidency, that's fine. We already have won the presidency. Get them out because they represent a clear and present danger. And if the elections are close, that means the people in Georgia are reconsidering what they think is normal. That means that people in Georgia are like, I'm not sure that I like the direction the country is taking. So now that you have seen that the country has given Mr. Biden a mandate, President-elect Biden a mandate, now it's time to move forward. The coronavirus is real. My daughter works in a law firm and was just notified that one of the legal assistants is being tested for it. That means my daughter might have been exposed to it. That means I might have been exposed to it. That means my youngest child might have been exposed to it. The coronavirus is real. That means all the people we came in contact with over the weekend have been exposed to it because unwittingly we were exposed to people whom we didn't know were exposed to it. That's how dangerous and invasive the coronavirus is. So I'm going to anoint myself with oil and plead the blood of Jesus that this is not going to be our reality. Our reality is not going to be defined by living in a diseased state because the coronavirus has massive implications for people, even those who survive. A friend of mine is one of my mentees is 32 now and contracted the coronavirus and had to learn to walk again, had to learn to talk again, had to learn to move her body again. The coronavirus was very debilitating, almost destroyed her. And she's 32, normally healthy, no issues. And if it did that, she had to learn to walk and talk again. My concern is that what about what you can't see? What about the damage to your cells? What about what happens? Do you see what I'm saying? So we can't mess around with the coronavirus. It is dangerous to our health. I am also worried about the country of Denmark. The fact that they now have a new strain that has mutated, that has come through one of their animals, minks, right? Those animals are where we get our mink coats from, and nowadays mink eyelashes. Do not use mink eyelashes. Stop putting false eyelashes on your eyes, people, for a while, because it could be coming from diseased animals. You don't know. Stop it. The country of Denmark is now going to kill 35 million minks because that's one of their exports. Because of the coronavirus, because the strain of it, the coronavirus jumped from humans to animals and then mutated in the animal and jumped back to humans. We have got to do something. It's a global problem. Now, that's the country of Denmark. That means everybody in a certain region in Denmark, they have shut that part of the country off. You can't go in, and the people in there can't come out. You can't take a train in, you can't take a bus in, you can't commute on the freeways. They have shut that part of the country off. That's how dangerous it is in Denmark right now. So imagine the countries that are close to Denmark, the other Scandinavian countries, and Nordic countries like Finland, Iceland, those other countries, and Sweden, those countries that are Norway, those countries that are close to Denmark have a problem. They're going to experience that same strain of the coronavirus. And you think this is a joke. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell and company sitting up here thinking this is a joke. It's not funny. And it's not a joke. This is real. And I am not going to get the coronavirus because that piece of germ is not going to take me or wreak any havoc on me and my family. It's not going to wreak any havoc on my body, and it's not going to wreak any havoc on my family. My two children are not going to contract the coronavirus. It can leave this earth and it can leave my space. Are you hearing me? Because none of us deserve this to happen to us. This was carelessness to the ninth degree. And watch what happens as soon as some of these folks leave office, how they're going to be subjected to the corona. Watch what happens afterwards. They're not going to have access to the best healthcare in the world. So most of them who get it now, they're going to be subject to it just like the rest of us. And the GOP is so hypocritical, right? Listen to how hypocritical listen to how hypocritical the GOP is. The same GOP is talking about election fraud. Well, in one of their states, I think it's South Dakota, a man is on the ballot who got votes, but he died a few weeks ago in their state. Yeah, he was on the ballot. Then he died of complications of COVID before the election, but they had already voted him in through mail-in ballots. You see how two-faced the Republican Party is? I cannot believe how cruel the Republican Party is to its own citizens. The resentment and the hatred is unbelievable. The Republican Party does not like the rest of America. If you do not exist in an America that is governed by big money, the Republican Party does not like you. The rest of the people serve as only one purpose, for votes only. That's how the Republican Party sees people. They talk about Trump being transactional in his relationships. Politics is largely a transactional relationship. You're only as good as your last vote. That's how politicians see you. Politicians are largely transactional. The Republican Party excels at that. And now we have to get to the stage, right? We have to get to the stage where we move forward. It's time to transition. And I'm glad that President-elect Biden has appointed a new coronavirus task force, which includes people whom Trump had fired. Those are the people who are the experts in epidemiology and the experts in infectious diseases. Those are the people who must have a say, because those are the people with the knowledge and the experience to guide us and to get us out of this. You realize that the virus is now practically uncontrollable. By the time Biden takes over on January 20th, he's literally going to hit the ground running. But by that time, God help us all, what's going to happen between now and then? We're only on the 9th day of November. Today is only the 9th day of November. We have the rest of November and the rest of December and 19 days in January to go. It's approximately 76 days to go. In 76 days, the coronavirus will kill millions more. There'll be hundreds of thousands of people who will be dead. Right here in my home state in Michigan, it is just approximately unbelievable. And so we got to get to the stage. We have to call for the adults in this setup, the president and his crew. They have got to grow up and be adults. You know, you can't make massive mistakes like announcing a press release, but you announced it, you put on the presser that it will be at the Four Seasons landscape. Everybody showed up there like, why are we at a landscaping joint? You meant the Four Seasons Hotel. Like, the grand gestures are unreal. It's the craziest thing I have ever heard. It's just crazy, and I fear for us all. I feel like we're all going to end up in a situation where it's the Twilight Zone all over again. I'm just a little bit concerned, more than a little bit concerned, to be honest with you. I've come in contact with so many people over this past weekend to just imagine that I could have been exposed to someone who had the coronavirus is breathtaking for me. Someone within my circle, my daughter works for a company, and someone there is testing for it right as we speak. So they're going to get the results back in a couple of days. That means she could have been just asymptomatic. She didn't seem to display any symptoms, but over the weekend she became concerned. So we got to get to the stage where this has got to stop. This has got to stop. This has to stop. This has to stop. It is grossly irresponsible. We should have never reopened the state. I said it from the beginning that it was not a good idea to, but you felt that you needed to go and so on. And by the way, where are all the people right now who promised that there would be civil unrest after the elections? The elections are over. I don't see any of you coming down off your mountain doing anything. You probably all have coronavirus. Or are you afraid? Are you afraid that the alphabets will be down here waiting for you? The real government? That the government will be down here waiting for you? I'm a little surprised. Where are you all? When President-elect Biden was announced the winner, there was dancing in the streets. When has that happened? When President Obama was elected, because people felt that the age of oppression had lifted. But to have that happen 12 years later, that's crazy. It was just an election where it's supposed to be business as usual. It's supposed to be normal. Instead, this is what we found to be our truth, right? And now, so where are all those people who promised that they were going to do this and they were going to do that? Go ahead. Make my day. Go right ahead. Well, the rest of us are going to sit back and watch as the government takes you all into custody and take you all into custody and rob you of your freedom for the rest of your life. We're all going to sit back and watch. Because once you go in, even if you spend 5 years, when you come back out, you don't have any freedom. So go ahead. Go ahead and make our day. And it is irresponsible of the GOP to promote the ideology that the elections are not fair just because you don't like the outcome, just because you didn't prepare for this outcome. Nothing you say is going to change the outcome. It is what it is, and it is irreversible. It has never happened before, and it's not going to happen this time, and it's never going to happen again. It's done. Move on. Go do something else. It's time for a change, right? My name is Harriet Kamek. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of Down to Earth. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. And the hashtag is Time to Transition. We need to get this done and get the country moving forward to eradicate the coronavirus. Thanks so much, everybody. Be blessed. It's time to be down to earth. Thanks so much.